never, ever, ever done before. I am going to read a poem that I just finished this day. Today. Nobody's ever heard it before, not even my husband. So this is going to be, this is going to rely on paper here. Does anybody in here, like, spring's a lovely season, yes, but does anybody ever feel like spring's like really intense? Like there's just like a lot of upheaval and death and deep things. Anyway, I still don't have a title yet, so. Some days, it is really freaking hard to be a mother. Some days, I feel smothered, flattened to the ground by the postpartum plunge into servitude, where every waking moment is spent making sure that the needs of children are met, that they get enough attention, nutrition, love, and sleep. Sleep. Sweet, sweet, sweet sleep. I weep for sleep. For that luxurious, deep dreaming that has the capacity to erase a day's worth of screaming toddlers and a whimpering infant, that infinite abyss that kisses the rest of the world as it nestles in its bed at night while I am startled awake by the cries of my child. I am consistently fighting my eyelids' insistence to close. In those moments of utter exhaustion, I pull my baby close. Watch him feed until a patina of calm, something like moonlight, flushes over his face and erases, if only for a moment, any recollection of my own needs. I live in a world of extremes, in the tension between sunbeam and shadow, joy and rage, the poem that wants to be written and what actually ends up on the page. I miss the days of my unbridled optimism. I miss the way spring looked before she knew she'd be bludgeoned to death by winter. Sometimes I want to trade the upside of the wheel for the view I hold from its center. The other night, I was out on the town for the first time in months. Mascara on my lashes, a pep in my step, the promise of sex with my husband rising like a lighthouse over the jagged rocks and stormy seas of the past 7 weeks. We were on our way to dinner when the phone rang, and I should have known better than to answer. It was my father, calling to deliver the news of my Uncle Mike's terminal cancer, and the lighthouse beam just dropped. Smashed again against the rocks, my optimism sunk like a ship that has grown so tired of this shit, of the grit and the grind, and the way this time of year always seems to bring death into sharper focus. I guess this is how the poem finds its way, a crocus poking through hardened soil, my 2-year-old daughter yanking up carrots in the garden, my guts feeling the tug, the struggle of blossoms, the call to bloom, the quiet room where my uncle's breath labors like my body did just 8 weeks ago, the letting go, snow yielding to melt, the helplessness that still wants to help, the way it felt to watch the 90-pound shell of my uncle holding on to my father as he shuffled across the floor, pausing for breath in the doorway like a comma whose sentence I didn't want to see finished. His body diminished to bones before our eyes, my father rising every 2 hours to put pills on his tongue. The song of spring is sung in the key of Redeemer hung on cross, where loss bears the promise of new life, a metaphor that was not lost on me as I held a dying man and my infant son in opposing arms. We live in a world of extremes. A unified stream of consciousness flowing between two unknowable shores, the doorway to truth is adorned in both roses and thorns, and who among us has not been torn open by the red-hot raw of what is, by the fissure that exists between our expectations and what comes to pass, fascinating, the way flowers surrender to wilt, tilt their necks downward in a botanical expression of prayer, and then entrust their seeds to the whim of the wind. Let it begin again. Allow spring to be her diluted concoction of green and naivety. Let the pungency of lilac rise like a savior into humid evenings spent on back porches in the company of friends. Let the poem end. Let bereavement be swept again into the wild abundance of the season, into the emerald reaches of possibility.